In the summer of 2019, in celebration of my parents' 20th wedding anniversary and my graduation from high school, my grandparents bought us tickets to a 10-day Baltic Sea cruise. Part of the journey in getting there, I quickly learned, involved an 11-hour flight from Dallas-Fort Worth to Amsterdam. Because of this, I wanted to finally bite the bullet and buy a Nintendo Switch for myself that I can enjoy while traveling to Europe. Along with a gently used Nintendo Switch, I also bought a carrying case, play stand, wired Pro Controller, and a copy of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. When I was 6 years old, I had my very first independent gaming experience when my Aunt Serena gifted me her copy of The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess for the Nintendo GameCube. It was short-lived. I never finished it, nor did I have much of an experience gaming for more than a decade after, not until I got my Switch 12 years later. I say this to iterate the connection I had with the Zelda franchise. I always heard nearly all existing Zelda games receive praise from friends and family who played video games consistently, especially Serena. She bought a Nintendo Switch at launch with a copy of Breath of the Wild and played it for over 125 hours in the span of just a few weeks, claiming to have loved every second of it. Before I ever bought a Nintendo Switch, I knew that Breath of the Wild would be the title that I would bring with me to Europe. Right after my plane took off and my face normalized after my body adjusted to the heightened speed and velocity of takeoff, I fired up my Switch and awoke within the Shrine of Resurrection as a shirtless, pantless Link. After many hours of trial and error, I unlocked all of the starting abilities, thereby conquering the tutorial area of the game. During that summer vacation, I played the game for about 40 hours and completed about 25% of the central story. Unlike my experience with Twilight Princess, I continued picking the game up, wherein I learned and mastered the mechanics of the game and grew to understand the logic systems in place in order to problem and puzzle solve. I played the game constantly for over 2 years, well into my freshman year of college. Being my introduction to open-world games and my greater introduction to gaming as a whole, I reflect on my initial time with the game largely as a learning experience. One of the developers of the game, the creator of Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda franchise, Shigeru Miyamoto, called the game an open-air game. Unlike all other open-world games to have existed prior, the virtual world of the video game had large barriers and great limitations in regards to the methods of traversal that exist in the game. Not in Breath of the Wild, though. The player character Link is able to climb onto anything. Anywhere the player can see is a location that can be ventured to and explored. In addition to the open-air nature, the development team spent over a year crafting the robust physics system that allowed for numerous varied solutions in combat and puzzle solving. Why do I say all this? Why does any of this matter? And no, these are not my research questions. I say all of this because when I was struggling to find a job or academically succeeding in college, or when my stress and anxiety reached all-time highs during the start of the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic, I didn't feel unable to solve problems in the land of Hyrule. The virtual space of Breath of the Wild, as well as the online communities for the game, became a safe space for me when I felt unsafe in my own college apartment. Video games uniquely position the media consumer not just in a passive audience role, but in an active role as the player. The trials and tribulations of a video game will not be beaten unless the player's skills surpass that of the rigor of the challenge. Inspired by the testimonial work of online video essayists that will be discussed later in this video, I intend to seek out and document the personal narratives of individuals who took to video games as their means of comfort during times of trauma, stress, and duress. This qualitative autoethnographic study will not only be conducted in a written format, but have a multimodal element as well. The video of gameplay and audio interviews will be collected and compiled into a final edited, exported video. As will become apparent in the literature review, discussing the components of a video game is hindered without visual aids. In order to further cement the semiotic power of video games, no footage of real-world human faces will be present in the final video. Greater detail will be discussed in the methods section of this proposal. The following are the research questions I will be employing to tackle this study. Research question 1. How do video games help people cope with adjustments to major life changes? How do video games aid in the processing of trauma? And lastly, how is placemaking and place belonging affected by virtual journeys and experiences?